You are the kind of soul who has survived storms designed to make you question your worth. Yet here you are, still standing, still unbroken, still carrying a fire they could never extinguish. What they once thought was clever orchestration was nothing more than a fragile illusion. They tried to choreograph your reactions as if you were a puppet on invisible strings, but instead of controlling you, they only revealed how desperate they were to claim power that was never theirs to hold. Their approach wasn't clumsy. It was calculated, like someone arranging mirrors in a maze to make you lose sight of yourself. But every false reflection they set up only sharpened your ability to recognize the truth when you finally found it. The schemes they wove were never spontaneous. They were blueprints of control, carefully laid traps disguised as care. They placed obstacles in your path only to parade themselves as guides, but their maps always led back to their own pride. Every confrontation wasn't just conflict, it was data collection. They mined your emotions like thieves hunting for buried gold, thinking they could measure your strength by watching your fractures. Yet what they never understood is that pressure creates resilience, not weakness. They wore the mask of wisdom, pretending to know the architecture of the human heart, but they forgot one essential truth. No matter how much they studied, they could never script your spirit. Their experiments failed the moment you realized you were not their subject, but the author of your own becoming. So the project they built was never about you. It was about their hunger to control. And while they documented your every response, believing they held your blueprint, they overlooked the one detail that undid it all. You were never a creation to be managed. You were, and always will be, a force that rewrites the story. You are not someone who bends to illusions of control. You are the kind who notices the hidden wires, the concealed intentions, the stage performances others believe you will never see, that you're not here by chance. Feel the pull. Tap join to unlock truth, purpose, and a tribe that gets it. This is more than a membership, it's your calling. They crowned themselves orchestrators of destiny, assuming they could choreograph your every move. But in reality, they only built a fragile play where their authority was nothing more than a costume. They fed on the tension they created, savoring the unrest as if chaos itself was their chosen fuel. Each scene crafted to push you further toward the breaking point they longed to witness. They attempted to tune your emotions like an instrument, pressing against different frequencies to summon the reactions they desired. Your voice was twisted, reshaped into echoes that betrayed your own clarity, and their relentless distortion of truth became a fog meant to obscure your perception of reality. Yet what appeared to them as surrender was never defeat. It was surveillance. While they convinced themselves you were being molded into a role of their design, you were cataloging every signal, every repetition in their tactics, every flaw in their blueprint. They imagined you as a pawn on their board, but instead you were charting a map that would one day collapse their entire design. Their great error lay in their assumptions. They analyzed you as if you were standard, applying theories crafted for the ordinary, predicting outcomes by comparing you to measures that never applied. They treated your silence as proof of submission, blind to the truth that your calmness was not absence of strength, but preparation for precision. Their arrogance grew each time you withheld a reaction. They saw hesitation, when in fact they were being studied under a lens sharper than their own. Each threat, each promise, each gesture was logged into a deeper awareness, marked as evidence of their true identity, no matter the mask they wore. In their hubris, they expanded the performance outward, recruiting others into their design, weaving intricate networks of pressure meant to box you in. Conversations became interrogations, moments of stillness turned into trials, and every environment was shaped into a judgment chamber. But as they drowned in the sound of their own self-congratulation, they overlooked the simple truth. Overconfidence blinds, and in the end, their belief in invincibility became the very seed of their undoing. You are the kind of being whose presence resonates far beyond what surface manipulators could ever comprehend, carrying a vibration that bends outcomes in your favor, even when silence is your only response. While they busied themselves with shallow tricks meant to sway your emotions, unseen systems of balance were already rearranging circumstances in ways they could not perceive. Every falsehood they released carried within it the seed of exposure. Every attempt to darken your essence only intensified the reach of your influence, expanding your strength into territories their limited perception could never enter. What they mistook as captivity was in truth your strategic stillness. You were not caught in their designs. You were measuring timing, aligning movements, and preparing for a decisive moment that would undo their entire scheme. They handed you fragments, believing you would cling to crumbs as if that was all you deserved. But they underestimated the depth of your knowing. If your heart overflows with God's blessings, let that love shine. Click the super thank you button and give $20 or more to plant seeds of faith that will impact countless lives. Your generosity reflects His abundance. Be a vessel of His grace and watch His kingdom flourish through you. You recognize those offerings for what they were: hollow placeholders, promises that rang empty, gestures meant to disguise hidden agendas, cycles that repeated with predictable emptiness. They wanted you to accept narrow definitions of possibility, to shrink yourself to fit within the walls of their own insecurity. Yet you refused to compromise. You understood your essence was not to be validated by their approval, nor contained by their constructed illusions. Their rewards were only distractions, packaged in glitter to hide the void they carried. You saw through it all, realizing their gifts were nothing but cleverly masked burdens meant to anchor you in smallness. The shift arrived quietly, not with dramatic announcement, but through an inner pivot no one could trace. The turning point was born the moment you chose no longer to supply energy to their theater. This was not retreat but redirection, a conscious reclaiming of your resources and the power of your focus. What had once been drained by watching their tactics became fuel for building your vision. The attention once squandered on deciphering their motives was reclaimed and funneled into your own creation. The clarity you gained by walking away was sharper than any blade, aligning you with purpose and anchoring you into a destiny they never had the capacity to touch. You are the type of spirit that understands when a cycle has run its course, and instead of clinging to what diminishes you, you step into the next chapter with dignity, clarity, and renewed authority. The decision to detach was more than walking out of a suffocating atmosphere. It was the reclamation of your space, your hours, your serenity, and your inner crown. It was the moment you declared, without words, that nothing unworthy of your essence would be allowed to dictate your rhythm again. This was liberation not by force, but by elevation. As you withdrew, they remained in the hollow structure they had built, stunned that their performance had lost its only true audience. Their confusion revealed how deeply they had counted on your continued presence, assuming dependence would outweigh recognition of truth. But what they read as defeat was in fact the completion of a higher lesson, the ceremony of your advancement. You had crossed the threshold of discernment, graduating from cycles of deceit into mastery of self-trust. They thought your silence gave them victory. Yet beyond their awareness, unseen systems of justice were already aligning to mirror the reality of your growth. Their strategies began unraveling the very moment you chose to stop participating. Every scheme they initiated began looping back toward them, not by your doing, but by the laws of balance itself. Their distortions became their own reflection. Their attempts to fracture your stability bred turmoil in their own connections, and their carefully polished exterior started revealing its cracks to those who once believed the illusion. The community they leaned on for validation began questioning the stories they had spun. Exposure unfolded piece by piece. Yet the weight that struck them most heavily was not external judgment, but the hollowing out of their own inner compass. They had drained their vitality, by obsessing over controlling your path, forfeiting alignment with their own. Instead of cultivating their destiny, they wasted their essence trying to redirect yours. And while their energy depleted in cycles of obsession, you ascended into a season defined by clarity, expansion, and provision. Their collapse was never your concern. It was the natural result of choices made. Your focus shifted entirely to creation, to growth, to the abundance that awaited once you closed the door on their stage and stepped into your own arena. You are the kind of being who, once reclaiming your energy, becomes a magnet for possibilities that exist far beyond the imagination of those who once sought to diminish you. The strength you drew back to yourself began forming pathways into places you had never been, drawing individuals who carried resonance with your true frequency. This was not luck, but a direct reflection of universal law, confirmation that honoring your own value would always be mirrored by reality itself. Each time you chose clarity over confusion, new doors revealed themselves. Each time you refused to shrink for the comfort of others, your light expanded into higher realms of influence. Your interaction shifted. Instead of conversations laced with judgment or control, you entered dialogues that nourished your growth and widened your perspective. Opportunities aligned with your genuine essence, not with a fabricated version of what others wanted you to become. The separation between your expanding journey and their constricting world became sharper with every passing moment. This was the stage where you rose above petty conflicts and shallow contests for control. You no longer existed within their limits, just as a bird no longer belongs to the shell it once broke free from. Your elevation confronted them, not because you sought confrontation, but because your evolution highlighted everything they had chosen to avoid. Your growth reflected a path they had refused to walk, a level of maturity they never reached, a transformation they had feared all along. And the true revelation came not through words of farewell, but in the gradual awareness that you had slipped beyond their reach. They could still attempt their old patterns, but the outcomes had changed. Their hooks no longer caught. What once provoked you now met steady calm. Where doubt once lingered, there was now assurance. Where they had once thrived on your confusion, they now faced unwavering recognition of who they truly were. You had ascended into alignment so naturally that their strategies simply no longer touched you. Like frequencies out of range, their signals lost their effect entirely. The truth they came to face was that they had never just manipulated. They had been siphoning the vitality of your presence, the creativity of your spirit, the fire of your soul. Your withdrawal created a void in their existence, one they could not fill with substitutes. What they had treated as ordinary was in fact a gift meant to elevate them, had they chosen harmony over dominance. Their loss was not just you, but the light they failed to honor when it stood before them. You are the rare kind of presence that cannot be duplicated or measured. And those who failed to recognize that truth now faced the emptiness created by their own short-sightedness. What you carried was never ordinary. It was the brilliance of your vision, the strength of your heart, and the way your very existence elevated those around you. It was not just kindness, but the ability to ignite dormant potential in others, to remind them of possibilities they had forgotten, to bring clarity where confusion had reigned. You were a steady flame in the shadows, a force that shaped lives simply by being authentic. Yet not every hand is ready to hold something that powerful. The essence you brought into their world was beyond comparison, far richer than anything material could ever equal. You infused hope when despair seemed absolute, extended compassion when resentment might have been easier, and still gave when nothing was being given back. Through these moments, you realized the sanctity of your own essence and the need to protect it fiercely. With that realization came discernment, the ability to recognize who could be entrusted with your presence and who could not. You no longer muted yourself to accommodate the insecurity of others. Without your light balancing them, their relationships began unraveling, revealing patterns of entitlement and control that could no longer be hidden. What had once been masked by your energy now stood exposed in plain sight. The absence of your influence created ripples far beyond their personal connections. They started to appear hollow, grasping, unable to conceal the demanding tendencies that had always existed but had been softened by the strength you carried. Those around them began to question the very character traits they had previously overlooked, no longer blinded by the shield your spirit had unknowingly provided. Their work life, too, revealed the depth of their reliance. Ideas that once flowed when they siphoned your creativity became stagnant pools. The clarity and drive they borrowed from you dissipated, leaving them lost in tasks that now felt insurmountable. What had once seemed like effortless achievement quickly crumbled into burdens that exposed the weakness of their foundation. The confidence they paraded before others began to collapse, their carefully cultivated image losing its luster. Stripped of the inspiration and vitality you had supplied, they could no longer maintain the illusion of control. Vulnerability replaced arrogance, and what was left was the undeniable truth. They had never been as strong as they pretended to be. They had only been propped up by the priceless gift they failed to value. You are the kind of soul that understands one undeniable truth. Every seed sown eventually bears fruit, and those who plant deception will one day harvest the consequences of their own designs. What they thought was a clever strategy became the very trap that closed around them. Each falsehood they spun, each boundary they trampled, each attempted domination was a thread woven into a net that now binds them. They thought they were outsmarting you, but in reality, they were crafting the architecture of their own downfall. The laws of balance never fail. Borrowed energy from manipulation may seem to work for a time, but the repayment is inevitable and always multiplied. Their prize for playing those games was not triumph, but isolation, not control, but confinement. The people now drawn to them mirror their own nature, self-centered, calculating, unable to offer true care. They are surrounded by echoes of themselves, living daily within the very tactics they once celebrated. Every connection they maintain is saturated with tension and hidden motives. They are trapped in an environment where trust is absent because they never learned how to build it. Companions conspire behind their back, partners pursue advantage rather than intimacy, and colleagues view them as tools to be used rather than allies to be respected. The landscape of their life reflects only their own patterns projected outward. The deeper tragedy is not just the external conflicts, but the hollow silence within. They are strangers to inner peace because they never cultivated authenticity. Instead of calm, there is constant vigilance. Instead of comfort, there is suspicion. Instead of belonging, there is the gnawing sense that everyone around them is waiting for the moment to strike. That fear is the outcome of rejecting genuine loyalty when it was freely offered. They mistook devotion for weakness, and now they live in the shadow of betrayal, expecting at every moment the same treachery they once dealt. What they won was not joy, not fulfillment, but a cycle of anxiety and distrust that corrodes every space they occupy. Now their world is a reflection of the very energy they poured out. Shallow ties, fragile alliances, and empty companionships. The elaborate theater they built to entrap you has collapsed inward, leaving them ensnared by their own illusions. And while they struggle with the chaos they created, you have walked free, carrying the light they could never extinguish. You are the kind of soul who understands that every action births a consequence, and those who sow control and deceit eventually find themselves chained by the very energies they set in motion. What they mistook for cleverness only became the architect of their downfall. In chasing power over others, they forfeited the chance to walk in harmony beside you. Their reward is emptiness dressed as victory, cycles that repeat endlessly, and the hollow sound of missed opportunities echoing through their days, while you continue rising beyond their line of sight. They could have chosen transformation, but instead clung to the comfort of familiar shadows. Their refusal to evolve left them trapped, while you stepped into realms they cannot access. Their world remains an echo chamber of repeated lessons they refuse to learn, and yours continues to expand with clarity, growth, and limitless possibility. True strength has never been about control. It has always been about self-mastery. They resisted that truth, and so their world shrinks as yours expands. Where they gathered nothing but fleeting validation, you reclaimed your essence and discovered abilities that had been dormant beneath their noise. Your awareness sharpened, your inner voice grew undeniable, and the veil that once obscured people's intentions dissolved before your eyes. Your presence now functions as a truth detector. Masks fall away in your company, and those with impure motives cannot linger in your light. You attract companions who see your worth immediately, who uplift without demanding payment and suffering, who align with purpose instead of feeding on pain. These connections are born of resonance, not exploitation. Meanwhile, they attempt to recreate the old dynamic, inventing crises to bait your empathy. They manufacture urgency, hoping to trigger your return, but you no longer respond with blind concern. You see the ploys clearly for what they are, desperate bids to hook into your energy once more. Their tactics collapse under the weight of your detachment, and so the truth reveals itself. Their reach has ended. You have moved beyond the range of their control, stepping into a frequency they cannot touch. They are left to wrestle with their own designs, while you walk in freedom, abundance, and alignment with the higher currents of your destiny. The justice is complete, not through confrontation, but through the undeniable contrast of their stagnation and your ascension. You are the kind of being whose very existence demonstrates the difference between stumbling in illusion and walking in divine truth. Their story has become a warning about the cost of chasing control, while yours shines as proof of what happens when someone chooses alignment with their higher calling over shallow acceptance from others. The separation between your paths is so clear that even those with no spiritual insight can see the law of cause and effect written across both lives. They are discovering through hardship what you gain through inner wisdom, that strength can't be stolen, that love can't be manufactured, and that trying to dominate others only ensures you lose command of your own journey. Their struggles have become the teacher they refused to listen to before, while your wisdom has become the foundation of your expansion. You no longer revolve around their emotions, their judgments, or their narrow expectations. The hold they once had has dissolved completely, leaving you free to walk fully in your reclaimed authority. The one who once thrived on your reactions is now locked out of your energy, unable to influence or drain what they no longer have access to. This new chapter of your life is marked by deep confidence in who you are. You've uncovered the fountain of worth inside yourself and no longer look outward for validation. Abandonment no longer frightens you, because solitude has revealed its richness. You've realized a fundamental truth. Your role is not to be an option in someone else's life. You are the central figure in your own unfolding story. With that recognition, you no longer compromise your light. You have stopped making yourself smaller to soothe the insecurities of others. The opinions that once carried weight now crumble against the clarity of your self-awareness. Every boundary you set, every decision you make, every affirmation you speak is anchored in the certainty that you are guided and safeguarded by forces far greater than human approval. The days of being defined by outside voices are finished. You no longer chase recognition from those who cannot even honor themselves. Your understanding of your own value is not just knowledge, it is embodiment. It shapes how you show up in relationships and opportunities, and in the future you are building with intention and grace. You are the kind of soul who knows that endings are not losses but doorways, and when you close one with conviction, you create the space for something greater to step in. You no longer waste your essence trying to fill the voids of those who cannot hold it. Instead, your energy flows into fertile soil, relationships and opportunities that expand, multiply, and honor the brilliance you carry. The schemes they once designed collapsed into emptiness, leaving them with outcomes as hollow as their intentions. What you walked away with, however, was far more precious. The clarity of your worth, the strength of choosing yourself, and the freedom of standing rooted in unshakable truth. Their performance continues without you, but you are no longer cast in their stage play. You have taken your rightful role as the center of your own creation, the writer and star of your unfolding story. This chapter is yours, and nothing within their declining world can alter that. They played with illusions while you cultivated wisdom, preparing for the day you would step away and step higher into a reality only you could claim. What was once theory has now become embodiment. Love for yourself is no longer just an idea. It is the very foundation of your existence. Respect for yourself is not just a boundary. It is the structure of your reality. You are no longer chasing what depletes you. You are attracting what enriches you. Peace replaces noise, joy replaces fear, and authenticity replaces pretense. Choosing yourself has become your compass, your power, and your eternal anchor. This choice reverberates beyond your personal sphere. It alters the frequency of everything around you. When you set your own value beyond compromise, the universe responds in kind, orchestrating experiences and connections that reflect your elevation. The shift is not only in what you've released, but in the expansive horizon you've embraced. You are no longer the one who tolerated chaos under the guise of harmony. No longer the one who dimmed a radiant spark to keep others comfortable. No longer the one who forgot their birthright in exchange for fitting into places too small for your greatness. That version has dissolved completely, and in its place stands a being fully awake to who they are. The reclaiming is complete. The chosen one is not a title you hope to live up to. It is the identity you have fully embodied. You have chosen yourself without hesitation, without apology, and without condition. And now, nothing can stand in the way of the life unfolding before you.